It just got the new iPhone 17s, the iPhone 17, the iPhone 17 Pro, the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and of course the brand new ultra-thin iPhone Air. Not iPhone 17 Air, just iPhone Air. And they all have a lot of new features. However, this video is all about the new iPhone Air. And I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to test and explore ahead of me daily driving this for the next few weeks. But first I gotta talk about the unboxing experience, which is similar to what we get on the other models. The only difference being that the box is now thinner. The image on the front shows the side of the iPhone rather than the back to show you how thin it is, and the fact that we don't get a SIM eject tool in the box anymore since the Air is eSIM only. We only get a manual and USB-C cable, that's it. I do think it's a shame we no longer get Apple stickers, as those would have looked so awesome if they actually matched the color of the iPhones. Speaking of the colors, I've ordered two here, the sky blue and my favorite, space black, which I absolutely love. Not just because we don't have it on the Pro models at all this year, but also because the frame is super shiny, and it reminds me a lot of the jet black iPhone 7. It just screams premium, and honestly, I'm extremely tempted to not even use a Pro Max this year and just use the black iPhone Air, just because it looks so freaking good. And of course, if you pair it with a matching wallpaper like this one from our Relentless Reflections pack by Michael from our app wallpapers, it's gonna look even better. You can find Relentless Reflections in our February pack selection from our app wallpapers, which you can download for free from the App Store. As for how the iPhone Air feels in the hand, honestly, it feels absolutely incredible. It's crazy thin. Well, just as thin as our dummy units really, but it's far more polished. And I'm not just referring to the actual polished titanium frame, which looks incredible in this black color by the way, but in general, this design reminds me a lot of the iPhone's 10 design as well. A super shiny, ultra premium, and truly innovative build. Yeah, I'm really impressed with how the Air looks and feels. It's by far my favorite iPhone that I've ever held in my hand. And I've held all of them. And it's also surprisingly well balanced. Take a look at that. Something that I was not expecting, as the top is where all the major components are. So I was worried that this would be top heavy, but that's actually not the case. Something else that I'm also really happy about is the new bumper case that actually makes a comeback. This was my favorite case ever, not even kidding. Apple used to sell this with the iPhone 4 and 4S back in the day, literally like 15 years ago, and unfortunately they haven't sold it since. It protects the frame of your iPhone and also gives you a ton of grip. But unlike the original bumper case, this has one major issue. You see, since the camera bump is now massive, the bumper case no longer protects it, as the camera bump will always stick out. So if you're looking for the best protection, then probably avoid this case. You can still get the clear case if you want, however, you cannot get this new tech woven case, which is only for the Pro models. I do actually like the way it feels, although it is pretty chunky, so I get why Apple hasn't made this for the Air. Now, aside from the bumper case, the other exclusive Air accessory is the new MagSafe battery. Now, this only works on the Air since its literal name. You can put it on a Pro Max, but the magnets won't align. Interesting enough, it does actually fit the Pixel 10 Pro XL perfectly, although it doesn't seem to charge the phone. Now, it does make the Air thicker, even thicker than the 17 Pro Max actually. However, it will give you 40 hours of battery life, so 1 extra hour even over the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Oh, and it looks like we still have reverse wireless charging support, but only when you use the MagSafe battery. So if you put your iPhone on charge with the MagSafe battery connected, it will charge the battery too. However, the battery will only be able to charge the Air up to 65% from 0%, even though Apple is actually using the same battery inside as in the iPhone Air. And that's due to the wireless charging having less efficiency compared to wire charging. Now, something that I'm quite curious to see is how the Air compares thickness and feel-wise to the rest of the iPhone 17 lineup. And I gotta say, the Air definitely stands out the most. Size-wise, it's in between the iPhone 17/17 Pro and the 17 Pro Max, which I do like. However, weight and thickness-wise, it feels incredible. It's way thinner and lighter than even the base 17, but it comes with a noticeably larger screen. And of course, when I compare it to the 17 Pro Max, that's just a complete tank, so it's not even the same comparison. It's a shame that we only have one single camera module on the Air though. Now, I do want to test out its camera, but before that, there's one more phone that I want to compare it against, and that's the S25 Edge, the super thin phone from Samsung that launched at the end of May. And holding both in my hand, I do actually prefer the Air. mostly due to its even thinner body at 5.6mm compared to 5.8, and the fact that the Air's frame is actually a bit rounded, which makes it feel even thinner in the hand, as well as more comfortable. Also, the S25 Edge is definitely not as well balanced, as it is pretty top heavy, as you can see. But it does come with a much more powerful camera system and a bigger display too. Now, if you do want to see a full comparison between the iPhone Air and the S25 Edge, we will be doing our iconic real-world battery drain test, where I'll also be taking camera samples, playing games, and just using both at the exact same time throughout the entire day to see how long will each last me. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that. Okay, now let's talk about the camera, which is really my main issue with this phone. But before that, a quick shout out to our sponsor, UGREEN, with their insane 14-in-1 Revodok Pro docking station that turns your laptop into the ultimate productivity machine. With just one cable, you can turn your setup into the cleanest hybrid setup yet. That makes dropping in and out easy, all while simultaneously driving 3 4K displays via HDMI and DisplayPort with 4K 120 support on a single monitor. For easy access on the front, you have an audio jack, SD and microSD card readers, plus 2 10GB USB-C ports. On the back, you have 3 display inputs, 2 USB-As, Gigabit Ethernet, and 2 more USB-Cs, one of which can even charge your laptop at up to 100 watts. So check out UGREEN using the links below for a 20% discount and also a free wireless mouse for this week only. Now, back to the camera, because we only get one module, we don't get any zoom capabilities aside from the 2x crop. And we also don't get the ability to zoom out like on the Pro models, since we don't have an ultra-wide module. Although, for me, the lack of zoom is the main reason I don't think I'll be able to use this long term. I mean, the 2x sensor crop is decent and pretty much on par with the Pro models. However, once you go to 5x, you'll see a pretty noticeable difference. Even more so if you go to 10x, where the Pro models are significantly better. And of course, 10x is the maximum zoom level available on the Air, whereas on the Pro models, you can zoom in digitally up to 40x. That being said, the main camera is pretty good, even though the sensor is smaller than on the Pro models. The quality does look overall similar in daytime. The only difference that I spotted was in this example here, where the 17 Pro had way more dynamic range, although this was a one-off. The other examples were pretty much identical. In nighttime, the Pro does have a slight edge, although not by much. The bigger difference is when you zoom in low light. We also get dual video capture on the iPhone Air, and as you can see me, and you can also see what I'm looking at, which in this case is our beautiful grids. iPhone 3G, iPhone 4S, iPhone 10. What do you guys think? Now, aside from having just one module, we also lack in the Pro Photo and Pro Video features that the Pro models have, such as Pro RAW, ProRes, and everything else. And I think the lack of Pro RAW is the biggest issue here. Like, if you want to edit your photos after the fact, you don't have that option, unless you use a third-party app like Halide to resolve that. Now, the new front camera is really cool. First, it is a better quality camera with a larger sensor and an 18-megapixel resolution from the previous 12, so the photos will look sharper. But the real upgrade is the new square shape of the sensor, which means that you can take horizontal and vertical photos even when you hold your phone in vertical orientation. Also, you get a much wider field of view compared to before, which is just awesome to have on a selfie camera. So what about its display brightness specifically? How much brighter is it compared to the 16 Pro Max now that we get 3000 nits on paper compared to 2000? Well, outdoors it was a bit brighter, but it also dimmed quite quickly. Also, the S25 Ultra still seemed to be the brightest here, and compared to the 17 Pro Max, I did find the 17 Pro Max to be brighter, despite the same brightness number, and also be able to sustain its brightness for longer than the iPhone Air. Also, this year, Apple added a new anti-reflective coating to all iPhone 17 displays. So, compared to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the Air is noticeably less reflective, which you can easily tell whether you're using it indoors or outdoors in bright sunlight. However, compared to the S25 Ultra, the Ultra is still the king, as you can probably see here. Now, I also want to touch upon the performance a bit, because while the Air does have the same chip as the Pro models, the A19 Pro, with the same amount of RAM at 12GB, it doesn't have the vapor cooling chamber that the Pro models have. And it also comes with a titanium frame, which is less thermal efficient compared to the aluminum frames that the Pro models come with. So, does this mean that it will throttle? Well, we ran the 3DMark Solar Bay Extreme test on both for 1 minute. And at the end of the test, the iPhone 17 Pro Max scored 34% higher, which is very significant. And this is just in 1 minute. I'm not sure if this is to do with the one extra GPU core. That is, of course, a reason, but I would say the bigger reason is if you take a look at the throttling. Specifically, the frame rate graph here is way more stable on the 17 Pro Max. Whereas on the Air, it started throttling after 50 seconds. Interesting enough, they both lost exactly 5% battery here. Then we ran the test for 10 minutes while using a thermal camera to measure their temperatures. And here, the Air started at 27.5 degrees Celsius, while the Pro was already cooler at 24 at the start. Now, after 10 minutes, the Air finished at 45 degrees, while the Pro finished at 42. Also, the heat dissipation was far better on the Pro, whereas the Air focused the heat in one spot, which was here in the camera plateau. Also, I did have some issues where the Air froze, although I think this is just iOS 26 being iOS 26 rather than, Air specific. Something that is Air specific though is the speaker quality. As the Air only comes with one speaker, I think it's pretty bad. Also, that speaker is in the earpiece. On the Pro models, we get dual speakers, and they're also much better. And we've had dual speakers ever since the iPhone 7, so I'm surprised that we only get one on this one, considering that the S25 Edge also comes with dual speakers. So I think it's pretty obvious that the 17 Pro is not only much louder, but its sound quality is far better too. There's more bass and everything is just clearer on the Pro model. Not even to mention that we do get actual stereo sound on the 17 Pro as opposed to mono on the Air. So all in all, I really do love the iPhone Air. It kind of reminds me of the iPhone 10, something truly innovative that feels incredibly premium at the same time. However, unlike the iPhone 10, the Air isn't the best iPhone in every way, as it does lack in the camera department. Still, it does excel in design, feel, and that 120Hz 3000 nit display is lovely, even though it is dim quite quickly. And I'll let you guys know my thoughts in my 2-week or so later review. Although I got a feeling that I'm probably going to go back to daily driving a 17 Pro Max because of its camera. Still, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the iPhone 17 Air. iPhone Air, sorry. Do subscribe for my full review and also check out our app wallpapers for some really awesome designs for the new iPhone 17s. I'm Daniel, this is ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.